Hi there, good afternoon. I faced a slight hiccup when I started this session. My software crashed and I had to reboot it. But here I am working on our 9th session of the most important VARC questions for the Maharashtra CET exam. And before I start, why don't you ponder over this? So great results are not going to come our way. We got to go out and make that happen. We need to ensure that we work towards getting all the great things that we want in our lives. And here you go. Tentative dates. Yes. So I told you every morning when I wake up right before this session, I look for a new notification. So thankfully we did have a new notification that increases the amount of confidence that the paper is going to happen as scheduled, because they've added one more day to the list. So the last time around when you and I met, it was 9th and 10th March. Now it is 9th, 10th and 11th March. So their rationale is a lot of people applied, so we have to open another slot, which is exactly what happened last year as well. It was spread over 3 days. So it's absolutely fine. Everything else so far more or less remains the same. And by that what I mean is target scores remain the same. Our amazing course is still there. And here is the overview of the paper. Four major areas, four major sections for you to focus on. Please take the overall number of questions under per section as a, once again, a guesstimate or a tentative idea. But because there is no negative marking, I expect you to mark all of them or attempt all of them. And this is what you typically find in your reading comprehension section. You can find grammar questions. They can be phrased in different ways, but the core is error identification. Vocabulary based questions of a lot of different varieties: synonyms, antonyms, fill in the blank, verbal analogy. Ooh, I haven't taken you through any verbal analogy in any of in a while. Oh, I think in the next one. Okay, so let me just schedule it for the next one. And with that, let us start. Here are the directions for the first question. So right off the bat, I am going to put you through a para jumble today. आज आधे सबसे पहला काम para jumble. So are we ready? Will that work? हाँ, मैं मतलब मुझे ध्यान है, मैंने जब पैरा जंबल ना बहुत सारे करवाए यार कैट वैट में, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि दैट इज़ वन एरिया दैट मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर काइंड ऑफ ओके विद, बट देन आई रियलाइज दैट वी डू नीड अ लिटिल मोर practice. So here we are. Okay, so here is the question on your screen, and go ahead, start solving it and then share your answer with me. So ready? Answers. Okay, so I think majority has definitely managed to get this right. See, it is, and there are a lot of clues that are actually scattered around here. So I'll just highlight the clues. In case you did not use any of these, I think using these would have basically helped. So there were two very obvious word-based clues that we had, but then I think most of you managed to get it right. So that, let's just leave it at that then, I guess. So here is the next set of questions. So for the next 3 questions, I am going to give you a grammar where you'd find sentences that are divided into basically 4 parts. If any of those parts happens to have an error, then you go ahead and mark that part as your answer. In case there is no error, then you can go ahead and mark E, no error, as your answer. So here is the first question for you. And for each one of these questions, I do have a timer. I'll basically be giving you 30 seconds. So let's start. Okay, in case you're still contemplating, in case you've read it and you think it is all right, let me make it a little easy for you. There is something wrong here. So there is something that does need to be fixed, yes. So E, I've at least managed to rule out E for you. So what do you think? What should that be now? Okay, so you notice was taken away from them. So it means that we are talking about the past. And because we are talking about the past, there is a tense inconsistency here. Instead of are, even this should have been were. Both parents were found guilty of neglect. And that is why the correct answer for question number 2 must be option B. And with that, let me give you your third question. Ooh. So this time around, the answers are actually streaming in fast, and of course, why not? Instead of have managed, notice when you say have managed, which tense are we using? We are using the present perfect tense, and in present perfect tense, you are supposed to use the third form of the verb, whereas we have not used the third form. That's wrong. It should have been managed, and that's why the answer once again is option B. And here is your next grammar question on the screen, slightly longer, but I'm sure you can manage within the time. Okay, so the correct answer here is option C, and that is because if you see this, this is wrong. The plural of sister-in-law is sisters-in-law. So the S goes with sister, it does not go with law. And that's what had to be fixed. By the way, if you are wondering about renounced acreage and town lots, so there are times when people inherit some land, but then they may decline accepting that inheritance. So that's basically called renounced land. So basically acreage, town lots is types of land which was renounced by people who inherited those. So most of the female recipients of renounced acreage and town lots turned out to be sister-in-laws. No, sisters-in-law, widowed mothers and unmarried sisters. So that's why the correct answer here is option C. This is one of those errors that gets asked quite frequently in the exam, and mind you, at the same time, something that a lot of people actually also struggle with. So here are the directions for the next 3 questions. Please read these carefully. Read the directions carefully, and then I'll take you over to the questions. More of grammar, a different way of framing questions though. Hi Mohan. Okay, so question number 5 on your screen. Oops, I forgot to add the timer. So work without a timer. Have that luxury. I'll just try adding it in the next one. All right, so what's your case for question number 5? Okay, so the first 3 answers are absolutely spot on. D it is. All the pilgrims in whatever place are invited to came together. No, invited to come together. Remember, 2 plus verbs, first form is 2 infinitive. So you use the first form and not the second form, and that is why it is option C. Mohan, any specific reason why you've picked up B? Are invited to will come together. 2 plus will. That'll make it a little weird. Okay, here is the next one, and I do have a timer for you. Okay, so when I look at question number 6, the problem here is that see here, opportunities and is. So I mean, is singular, opportunities is plural. Both of these obviously will not go together. So there is a very clear-cut issue of subject-verb agreement. So if you change it into are, you can fix it. But then when I go to the options, I don't see any are. So I see there is, this is not even a word, so let's rule it out. And this is the wrong there, so let's rule this out as well. So answer has to be A or B. And when I compare the two, in B we are saying every nations, each, every, they are singular, and whatever you put after that would also be singular. So this is wrong, and that's basically means that we are able to rule out B as well, and that gives you A as your answer. Here is your next question. Okay, so you know that there are some things called correlative conjunctions, and we are supposed to stick to that formula. They come in a pair and that pair is treated as a formula. So when you use not only, it is followed by but also and not yet also. So B is definitely ruled out. Now when I look at C and D, must be maintain is grammatically incorrect. You're using passive voice, right? So C is passive voice. In passive voice, it's always going to be the third form. So whether passive voice is suitable here or not is a different issue. Considering that the syntax itself, the structure itself is wrong, you can eliminate C. So that leaves you with A and D. But also how we must maintain versus but also how we must have maintained. Are we talking about the past? See, present perfect always talks about the past. It's ironical that yes, it is called present, but it always talks about the past. And since in this sentence, we are not talking about the past, this has not only changed the many potential interruptions we have, but also how we must maintain. So we're talking about certain changes that we need to bring about in this domain, not the changes that have already occurred. So therefore D can also be eliminated, and the best answer is going to be option A. And with that, here is the next question. So question number 8 and 9 are basically paragraph based critical reasoning questions. In case you've not been attending my other series where I take a deep dive into some specific aspects of the paper, then you may have missed out on it altogether. So here is bringing critical reasoning to my session. So I break the question across 2 slides. You'd have the question on one and the answer choices on the next one. You can always use your seeker of the YouTube video to come back to the paragraph if needed. So here is the paragraph along with what I am asking. The next slide will have your options. Okay, so if you've gone through the paragraph, here are the options for you on your screen. So when I look at option A, I think I label it as can't say. We don't know that. B is true. C on the base of the paragraph can't say. D is also can't say. So since B is true, we can go ahead and choose that or mark that as our answer, which I think most of you have gone on to choose. But although I also see a couple of A's here. Regular covers. So now there is nothing that tells you that the bacteria themselves have become more averse. Not something that we can conclude. Okay, so here is the next one. Okay, options. Okay, so that's absolutely spot on. See, it is. And here is the next question, which is not a critical reasoning question but a vocab question. But in this question, I am diving into the world of idioms. So, what's your take? Okay, so the correct answer here is option D. It is an informal idiom which is used for emphasis when you want to talk about each and every person. So, for example, you say they are spies, every man jack of them. So, every man jack of them is just like saying each and every one of them. So, that is why D. And the next question is testing your understanding of idiomatic expressions, but this time around we are getting into phrasal verbs. So this time around the focus is on phrasal verbs and the clock is ticking. All right, so the answer to question number 11 is option C. To come out of a place or a thing is issue forth. If you look at the other ones, iron out is to resolve something by resolve something through discussions, eliminate differences. Idle away is waste your time doing nothing. In the teeth of basically means directly against, usually the wind. Okay, so directly against the wind. So these obviously are not at all close to what has been asked, and that is why D is our answer. And here are the directions for the next 3 questions. I have taken you through these questions earlier as well. So in these questions, I'm going to give you 4 words followed by 5 answer choices. Every answer choice picks up 2 of those words. Okay, every answer choice forms a pair. So you are supposed to choose a pair as your answer if both the words in that pair are synonyms or antonyms. Okay, so here is the question and the clock is ticking. Okay, so the correct answer here should be option C, as captivate and enchant, both of them basically mean to charm someone. Spike as a noun refers to anything which is short and pointy, a thin pointed piece of anything. So some dog collars have those spikes. A lot of people who play football use shoes with spikes. And then as a verb, spike can refer to a sudden increase in something. Squint, one of the meanings of squint is to make your eyes narrow in order to cope with a sudden bright light that you face. So A and C, because they are synonyms, that should be chosen as our answer. And here is the next one on the screen. The clock is ticking. Okay, so the correct answer here should be, I think, A. They are antonyms, no? Something that is secured and something that's vulnerable are opposites. Ossified. Okay, now the meaning in which you are likely to encounter ossified is, we normally use it for our habits or ideas. So whenever we say somebody's habits or somebody's ideas have become fixed, that person is unable to change them, then you say that the habits have ossified or these ideas have ossified. On the other hand, if you talk about ossified in the context of the body tissue, then you're saying that the body tissue has become hard and has turned into bone. And then ambivalent. Ambivalent is a person who is not able to decide on what to do. He's contemplating two different options, but he's not able to make up his mind. Both the options appear equally good to him. Right? So in that sense, I'd say C and D have no relationship with each other, but A and B, because they are antonyms, we'd go ahead and choose them as our answer. And here is the next one. Drab is also going to be a synonym here, no? Dull, boring, isn't it? So I think we can go ahead and pick up B and C as our answer, because both of these are synonyms. And I think most of you by now know the meaning of the word maverick, thanks to this movie called Top Gun that you probably have been introduced to. So a maverick is a person who thinks and acts in a very independent way, unconventional way. So the behavior of that person is such that you won't expect that particular behavior from that individual. So that's when you start calling it maverick, a little on the crazy side. Harsh, ambivalent and ossified you are saying are antonyms. So when you say ossified is fixed, you're saying there is a habit that is not changing. In ambivalent, are things changing? Ambivalence is not a status of change. Ambivalence is a status of inaction. In fact, you are in a particular position where you are supposed to take a decision and act, but you are not able to act because you're not able to decide. So where is that change in that sense? You contemplating two options, you are not able to decide. It's not that you decided one thing and then you changed your decision into another and then you changed back to the first one. No, hasn't happened. Okay, so that takes care of question number 14, and here is the next one. Fill in the blank, but I had to frame the question, as in design the question on the slide slightly differently, because there are two back-to-back blanks, and in order to avoid that confusion, the first one has been marked as 1, second one has been marked as 2 very clearly, so that you don't confuse them as a single blank. Go ahead, let me think what the right answer or the best answer should be. Okay, so I see B, I see option C, I see option D. So let's start with them. Improvements to HR practices can help elevate outrageous behaviors. If it's an improvement, then why will it elevate? Elevate is to increase. Why will it increase fraud? Why will it increase negative behavior? Then it won't be an improvement, right? So B can be ruled out. Improvements to HR practices can help mitigate, yes. It can reduce. Egregious basically means horrible behavior. In fact, in egregious, the E basically means out. Greg means group, and OUS tells you that it is an adjective. So an egregious act is an act so evil, so bad, so horrible that your group disowns you, that you're thrown out of your group. So that bad. So yeah, this can work. Improvements to HR practices can help hasten diminishable behavior. Hasten diminishable behavior. What I don't even see what meaning that should actually be in this context. So we can definitely rule it out. And fraud is not a benevolent behavior. Somebody has chosen A as well. Benevolent is good, kind, generous. Frauds are not that kind of behaviors, and therefore A can also be ruled out. Our best answer choice here is option C. So that's what I brought for you today. Don't forget to like the session before you leave, and we have a course attractively priced. On top of that, we are starting our series Last Lap to Maharashtra CET. We now that it appears that the dates are on track. So from tomorrow onwards, you'd see a session at 7 p.m. every day. In fact, you will meet me at 7 p.m. tomorrow with Maharashtra CET RCs. And thereafter, of course, you'd have more and more sessions at 7 p.m. So we've planned for at least 10 sessions. Maybe we can fit in some more. Let's see. And I have a favor to ask. If you know anybody who's preparing for CAT 24, do tell them about a fabulous program that we have and the fact that we are conducting a scholarship test on the 10th of the March. And there is a workshop on the 17th that can help them manage their preparation along with their college or job or studies or whatever. Right? So do give them a heads up. So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow at 7 for our first session of Last Lap to the Maharashtra CET. Until then, have a great time.